Welcome to Uncaged, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're here with Glenn Akramoff. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Glenn, we're going to be talking about probably one of the biggest topics on every business leader's minds these days. Glenn is the founder and CEO of Akramoff, and they are a company that's focused on creating healthy working environments, reimagining the workplace. And we've all been forced to reimagine our workplaces over the last several years. And so it'd be wonderful to hear from an expert. But before we get there, Glenn, tell us a little bit about your background and your career.
Well, I started out at a grassroots level. I actually started out as a temporary maintenance worker in my hometown of Otsego, New York, and then moved up through the ranks. I was a truck driver and moved out to Washington State and did some maintenance work. Found out I knew I'd always had some leadership ability, but was encouraged and mentored to develop that. And kind of moved into management in my late 30s, and kind of moved up the ranks there from supervisor to manager to director, and ended up as a city manager. And found out that I worked really well with teams and could develop teams. And then that's how I became a consultant, and then created my own business 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic.
So, I mean, in some ways, trial by fire, right? Like right in the middle of a pandemic to start a business, but also probably the business that everybody wanted and needed at that time. So tell me about Akramoff and the story of the business and what you guys are working on.
Sure. For me, coming through the grassroots and becoming a leader, I developed a program that worked, and I moved around a little bit. I actually became a niche person in that I worked with newly formed cities. So basically a startup business within government, which is always an interesting concept. And I had to start kind of develop a program. I did. And then I used it in multiple places. So it developed and continues to develop today, but I got to a point where people are saying you really need to think about this. And I had someone contact me and say, hey, can you come help us fix this part of our workplace? And I said, sure, but I had to partner with someone. So I joined a firm. Actually, they invited me, and it was an awesome experience, taught me how to do the business. And so I saw the same thing that you just mentioned. People we spend so much time working and in our workplaces, and watching how toxic they were and how people were taking that home with them. I wanted to be a part of that solution. So when we started Akramoff, that was the mission. And I started it by myself at the beginning with just me. And I had a couple of clients, and I jumped in and did my program. And then it started to grow. And pretty soon I had multiple clients and was turning them down. And I didn't want to turn them down. I wanted to help their workplace. So I started building a team, and we're now a team of 4, and looking to join a couple of others. But I think the biggest thing was, like you said, the pandemic brought forward the fact that people didn't want to be in bad workplaces anymore. And they made that message loud and clear. And I felt that when I was in workplaces, but it really didn't start to show up until, and I'd already started, the business was well on its way to being launched when this really started to show up, the Great Resignation and all the things that go with that. And so the timing was perfect, and the message is right on point that you deserve to have a great workplace. Everyone does. And
so tell me, I mean, I know that you have kind of a human-centered model. So tell me more about the way that Akramoff approaches these types of challenges and your method.
Great question. Thanks for that. I think the human-centered approach focuses just on that, in that everyone has the right the responsibility to have a productive, happy workplace and healthy. Can't forget the healthy part, right? And that's really what we've been focusing on. And everyone needs to be a part of those solutions. And ultimately, in order to get there, the only way you do that is by enhancing the human experience within the workplace. And also almost all of our businesses, I mean, very few don't serve human beings in some form or fashion. So when those who are serving are in a healthy and happy place, your customers it enhances the customer experience as well.
Yeah,
so that's
I can imagine.
Yeah, that's really where we've been focused and that's the core of the human-centered approach.
I can see that this is a real challenge, and certainly I think that what we see a lot of companies now thinking about is trying to manage that shift. We saw the shift to working at home during the pandemic, and then now some companies have drifted back to some type of a modified solution. Some businesses, you got to be in an office, right? It depends on the industry that you're in. Governments have to kind of be available. I don't know what they would do if the police department decided to not show up.
That's true.
Workplaces are going to be really important, but what are the key concerns that you're hearing lately as people try to kind of rebuild this workplace and going back in these days?
Sure. I think the one of the things you hear about is that, and you hear this nationally and internationally, that people don't want to work, which I don't believe is true. So I think the first thing that we're not doing that we go to work and talk about, that I think it hasn't been missed. It's just, how do we connect? Human connection is a big part of it, but connecting purpose. So being able to connect the individual's purpose with the company's purpose, because then when you do that, hybrid and working from home or working in the workplace ceases to matter when they know that they're serving a greater purpose than themselves. And we as human beings are set up to do that, right? That's something that's very important to us. So I think that's really, when you talk about how things have evolved and where you're getting the pushback, that's where it's coming from. And then, of course, that's not an easy task, right? It is to be able to help. Some people have not identified their own personal purpose, right? I would say 10 to 15% of us have it in a defined way. So the organization has to become active in that process to help them identify what that is, in a way where you can connect it with what the organization's about.
Yeah, I can see that. That's key. And I think if an organization is able to assist in that process and intertwine it with what they're trying to do, it really dimensionalizes the overarching story for that organization. But I mean, Glenn, you started the business just a year before this lovely pandemic we've been in. So walking from 2019 to today, tell me a little bit about what that roller coaster has been like for you.
Well, that's what everyone said when I started, is like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? And I said, I just feel like this is the right thing at the right time. So at the beginning of it, right, people had not gotten to this point. Although I had, like I said, before that, I was working for another firm and I got clients who asked me to do stuff. Those always started, though, and this was kind of the changeover as the business has evolved. Those always started with a technical background first, right? Hey, we have these technical problems we need to solve. And of course, I always said, well, we're going to work on culture. That's something we're going to work on. But it always initiated with that. And about the end of 19, really into early 20, was when it changed. Hey, we have these cultural problems. We can't get people to move forward. We feel like we have sexual harassment. We have mental health issues. We have all these other things going on, and we don't know how to fix them, number one. And even if we did, we don't have the time. And so that's really what we've become, is we leverage the time we can teach and give you abilities or give you strategies to be able to meet those needs. But I think that's what it was, is that was a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And then one of the challenges that I have faced is because I'm so passionate about helping human beings, I took on too much in the business.
Mm.
And I think that's typical of entrepreneurs. We tend to do that. I'm sure
Yeah.
you face that in your career as well. And I had to learn the hard way that, hey, in order to do change processes, and especially around culture, my energy has to be high and
Right.
positive. And I can't be if I'm overwhelmed in running my business or serving clients. So I've had to start to build my team slowly, but also say no. And I've
Yeah.
said no more times than I want to, certainly, but more times than I ever expected. I think that's the evolution of the process.
I think that's such a good personal insight, which is really where you play a role in kind of catalyzing, igniting the organization, pushing it forward. You can be a leader in a positive way, and then bringing people in to support and partner with you to push the broader organization together. Absolutely critical process.
Yeah.
But I mean, Glenn, I know before the call you said that you weren't future forecaster. But I'm going to ask you to think about 2023 here. We are at the last couple of days of 2022. Thank God we've escaped another one of these crazy years. But looking forward, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing on the horizon.
Well, I think 23 is setting up to possibly be another crazy year, but I think we have a choice. And as leaders in the world and in the community, we all have choices to make, and actually all of us. And I think, and I tend to focus on the positive, and I think that's what we're going to see here, is that rather than the great resignation, right? And we have all of these problems and inflation and all the still some supply chain issues and all the business challenges that are out there. But I think people are getting to a point where and I think we saw a little bit in the election. I think we see a lot in everything. They want something more positive. And I think when you look at YouTube usage and those things, people are just searching for something positive. And I think this year there's going to be a lot more realization of where they can find it. And some of that is internal, right? We all know that we control how we filter things. So I think that's a big part. But I think it may not happen totally in 23, but I think the consciousness of the world is heading in a more positive direction. Even though the proof is there, but it's hidden, right? When you go into a workplace, as an example, every place I go is somebody's workplace for all of us, but I tend to notice things, right? Because I work with them. And so I walk into a restaurant and I can see whether the team's functioning or not, right? Whether they're communicating well or whether the front line really understands the vision of the cook or the chef or the business owner. And I'm seeing more of it when you walk into workplaces. There's a little more connection. There's smaller staffs. They've been reduced definitely because of COVID, but they're more connected and they're trying to grab that connection. And I think that's going to continue to grow. And yeah, we got lots of challenges, but
well, I mean, Glenn, on that kind of very positive note, I like it. I like the positivity going into 2023 here, Glenn. The reality is that what you guys do is still something that's critically needed by businesses right now. And so, where's the best place for someone to reach you if they want to learn more about what you guys are doing?
Well, our website's pretty good. I think you jump on there. There's some videos and some explanations as to why we do this and how we go about doing it. We do, in 23, we do have a book coming out called The Human-Centered Team, which we'll kind of talk about how that goes. It's definitely a different type of book. It's not just written for CEOs and leaders. It's written for everyone. And but I think the website's a definitely place to go. we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all the others, just getting stuff out there. And we love feedback. We love engagement. That's
Yeah.
really what our business is about, is engaging. And so even if you don't need us, we love to hear from you.
Well, I mean, Glenn, people need you. We've been blessed to have Glenn Akramoff on the show today. Glenn is the founder and CEO of Akramoff. And Akramoff is a company that is working to really create healthy work environments and reimagine the workplaces across the board. We've been talking to him today about the Akramoff philosophy and method, which is very much about human-centered working environments and workplaces, and building a human-centered model to reimagine work in general. Glenn, it's been amazing having you on the program today, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Cheers.